Today, we're going to be discussing a little bit about the current state of the video game industry. This discussion was inspired by a recent video posted on YongYea's channel, YongYea. How would you say it?
YongYea.
I'm just going to say Yong.
Yeah.
On Yong's channel, in which he had a sit-down discussion with Jason Schreier, I think he's the lead editor of Kotaku, I believe. And Jason Schreier, as many of y'all know, has been around for a long time. He's written a lot of controversial articles that have basically brought up new leaks and new information about, like, he was the first one to leak the script behind Fallout 4. He's leaked a lot about like the way treatment is in the gaming industry. He brought out a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels a couple years ago that talks a lot about just the working in the gaming industry and what it's like the harsh, like, what it is like to reach deadlines in that gaming industry. And he's working on a new book right now. They had an hour and a half sit down here where they both just got on webcam and talked about, you had on one side Yong, who is a YouTube influencer, who is a self-made YouTuber who has 600 some thousand followers, and basically sits there and puts out videos talking about his thoughts and theories behind gaming subjects. And he's not a journalist. He doesn't have access to like all these people and stuff like that. Or I feel like he probably could have access, but based on this, like, you've learned that he's really hasn't tried that much.
Well, he reach outs to like the public relations team, and that's it.
Yeah, and he doesn't get anything back. But then Jason Schreier, on the other hand, works for Kotaku, which gets millions of hits every month, and so he's got a lot of pull in this industry. So it's interesting to see, like, kind of the old journalist and then in a way the new journalist, which he's not, like, Yong is not really a journalist per se, but he is
he covers the news, right?
Yeah, he puts out his opinions, and so does Jason Schreier.
He does, but he also covers facts as well.
Well, yeah,
that's what I like about his videos.
Yeah.
He covers facts and he gives his opinion.
Right. Yeah. It was a very interesting discussion, but we kind of want to cover through some of these main points that were discussed in this, because I think they're really important to talk about. A lot of this was off the cusp of, one, the Diablo Immortal debacle that happened a couple weeks ago. Two, microtransactions and level grinding, which we did a video about and a podcast about not too long ago. You can check that out on youtube.com/YongYeaHater. And then also just in general, like, who should we be mad at? Like, where do we like put our anger at? The first part of the video kind of jumped into basically the current state of the industry and how, like, Yong is definitely more for the gamer, and like he's defending the gamer's side of things. And that, Diablo Immortal, for example, came out. They announced this game. It is a mobile game exclusive. It's not for PC or anything like that. And everybody was expecting something else, and that's not what they got. Whereas Jason Schreier, on the other hand, is like, wait a minute, let's think about who we're relating this to. Like, should we be mad at Wyatt Chang, who went up on stage and revealed this game, or should we be mad at the people above him who are, the big dogs, the CEOs that are calling the shots down below? And I agree with both sides. Like, I don't think that we should be mad at Wyatt Chang in this situation, but just generally the conversation is, how should we prioritize our anger?
I'll say this. I don't think people are mad at Wyatt Chang.
Yeah.
They're just mad at the fact that there's no Diablo 4.
Yeah.
In this game, Diablo Immortal isn't coming to PC. Like, that's why people are mad.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the people behind the game.
But some of the people were definitely kind of, they're pointing fingers at him.
Right.
But because he was, in a way, their punching bag in this situation. And
yeah. He's the guy who gets on stage and becomes the face of it.
Yeah. And it sucks for him because, he is not... I mean, if you look, like, Jason Schreier also released an article later on that was the future, the present, and the past, the present, and the future of Diablo. And in it, he talked about how Wyatt Chang joined this Diablo Immortal team willingly because he wanted to take a break and from the debacle that was about Diablo 3, which released to very poor feedback and then eventually fixed itself over time through expansions and updates and things like that. So, like, should we be mad at him? Not necessarily, but are people mad at him? Probably, because they need to be angry at somebody or something.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot of rage and anger and toxicity. And this is what, Jason Schreier was saying. His thing is that people have this anger bent up inside them about these issues, and they have good reason to be angry. They should be angry, but I think the goal, and both of them kind of agreed on this, is that we need to make sure we're pointing the anger in the right direction. Humans tend to not really spend a lot of time researching on a subject. Like, they're going to latch on to a headline or a clickbait title or something like that, as opposed to like actually reading into the issue. Like, I was looking through this video, reading the comments, and a lot of people that were commenting about stuff were literally saying like, Jason Schreier, freaking idiot, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't actually they watched like 5 minutes of the video and they just thought, oh, he's an idiot, so I'm going to stop watching. But if you kept watching through it, yes, he was passive aggressive towards Young. Like, there was many times where he was. And for that, I think he realized he was at fault there. And he also said something in a tweet later that he later deleted that was also kind of inappropriate. But if you look at his line of work, I think at that point he was also angry in a way, because they were kind of debating back and forth, and he got some flack from it, and so did Young. They both had some. Well, Young's audience was really into it, but there's so many people that respond with emotion too quickly before they actually take the time to take that emotion out of the equation and respond from a rational standpoint.
Right. But I guess let's bring it back to the video game industry in general. Where are we at? For me, you have all these giant companies who have created a lineage over this time since we have been growing up into now, and now they're publicly traded companies. And so the bottom line is they have to do better this month. They did last year's, November or whatever.
This quarter versus next quarter.
Yeah, it's they got to continue doing this stuff. So you have the people on the bottom, which is what we see, who are creating these games, being controlled by the people at the top who literally only see numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just man, how have we gotten to this point in time? And the only way for us to make some change is because I feel at some certain point, the people at the top are definitely going to just overthrow everyone at the bottom. And then that's when they lose that trust, lose that spark that they had, that creativity that they've grown up with. It's created this fan base, and it's they almost forget the fan base. And I think that's what a lot of people for Diablo Immortal felt.
When gaming's young, but it's now at a point where it's getting up there. Back in the early days, it was the golden age of gaming where everybody was doing it because they love games. So now it's an industry where you have people that have come into it that have seen these dollar bills showing up, and it's as that happens and as these teams see the success, they get bigger and bigger, and as anything gets bigger, it's going to get, it's kind of like blowing up a bubble, you know what I mean? And the bubble gets bigger and bigger, and eventually it's going to pop.
Right.
So we're going to see a pop here before long. I feel like we're at a point where we're kind of in a bubble. So I think as a whole, everybody that has an opinion to be voiced should put that voice out there. But I don't think people should be voicing their opinions just to ride on the coattails of somebody else without doing their own research and proving that, that is actually their opinion and not them regurgitating what somebody else is saying.
Right.
But if this didn't happen, we wouldn't have these cycles happening. We wouldn't have these indie games rising up to the top. Blizzard wouldn't be who they are now, because they were at one point a small person. That was a little small shop that was had nothing, and now they're huge and massive and stuff like that. Same with Rockstar. They were tiny at one point. Everybody has done tiny things, and they've risen up to be big things, and then eventually that big thing will die out, and that small thing will rise up, and then it's going to keep going in circles.
Right. So Jason Schreier said one more thing where he was he doesn't understand why people are upset about some of this stuff, like in Diablo Immortal or AC Odyssey and the XP boost. He's when we're in a time where 5 years ago the game's fidelity and scale of these games are a far cry from what they used to be. We're living in, the heyday of video games, basically. Everything is phenomenal. It's only $60 for these gigantic games. And then if you don't want to play one of these games that come out, that you can just go to your, Steam library and have, a plethora of games.
50 other games out there you can play. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the reason people get upset about this stuff, and we get our torches and pitchforks is because we grew up on these games who are now starting to change for the worse in our minds, it's not the same. It's not the same games we grew up on, and that's what really kind of sucks. And I guess it's kind of coming to realization. Obviously, you get so big, this is what happens.
Yeah,
it is all about money, and it's just sad.
But like, there's a lot of people out there that they are 1 or 2 game purchasers a year, and if they go out there and they're like, cannot wait for this Fallout 76 to come out, they buy that game, and it's not like the best game in the world, they are completely warranted to be upset because that is the game that they waited for 6 months for.
Right.
And that was the game they're going to play for the next 6 months. So from that perspective, like, Yong was totally right. Like,
yeah,
that's the more the argument that, like, basically this Jason Schreier is kind of off base there, and that, I mean, you could stay private forever, but if you need to like keep growing, you either need to go public, which allows you to get new shares in your company, or you get a lot of investor backing from some privately traded company. But at that point, when you're at the point where you could go to public, you're not going to get that one person that can invest your money into the company.
Right.
It's really hard to find somebody that can put money down.
I wish these bigger companies would find these people who love video games and want to give them money, and that's hard.
Yeah.
Because obviously they find like people with lots of money just want like, well, here's something that's making money, so here's a bunch of money, now make me more money.
Yeah.
And that's all it's about. And I mean, I get it, but there's got to be a better balance. There's got to be balance in there somewhere. And again, with us having these outcries and telling these developers and studios to make their games better, that is literally the only way we can have things change.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see what it's like in the next couple of years with particularly the Microsoft Game Studios acquisitions that just happened.
Yes.
Because they took an interesting approach. They just bought up a shit ton of small studios, right? And those are a lot of games that, while they're developing their Halos and their Gears and all their things that are like big titles, they have all these little shops that are going to be releasing new games along with it. And I'll be curious to see how that does for them from a financial perspective. To help offset some of that, because like EA has been trying to do that with like A Way Out at the same time of doing Battlefield and like all these different things, but they just haven't been able to really. They've kind of went half in with that, but they haven't gone all in with like supporting EA originals.
Honestly,
I wish they did more.
I think that's going to help Xbox out a lot.
Yeah,
like a lot, like to the point where I will have to buy an Xbox to play those games.
Yeah,
like. That is what they need, but they could bomb too. I don't know. We'll find out. It's too soon.
I mean, they got great studios on there. If they are able to, I mean, they have a large enough portfolio of studios under their belt now that if like each one of them can take risk and make a mistake because they have 3 others that can pick them up.
Right.
But with this, like with Activision Blizzard right now, they're just in a bad situation because they don't have any new IPs in development.
No.
And that article proved that, like, they were banking on Destiny, they were banking on Overwatch, and they're banking on Diablo, and none of those have new games right now. Like, and that's
man.
Like Activision as Activision, like their properties, like sucks. Like they have Call of Duty, and that's like their big thing. They don't have Guitar Hero anymore, so like they don't have that franchise. Like there isn't really a franchise that they have that's like, oh man, look at Activision. Like they're killing it. And they used to have tons of them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's tough. It's a tough situation.
A giant has to fall sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I just wish Blizzard wasn't part of it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be able to get some private backing and be able to break up. Well, I don't know. They're a joint venture, so it's not like Activision owns Blizzard. It's that Activision and Blizzard are one entity that merge into each other. So it's a little weird.
It's not good.
I don't know, but
what do you guys think?
Yeah, let us know what you think. If you saw the video, let us know about that. If you saw our video or our podcast, listen to the podcast. Let us know your thoughts about the growth of an industry. Where is it going? Where video gamers should like put their anger? Like where should it be directed? Should they be angry at all? I don't know.
Do you agree with YongYea or do you agree with Jason Schreier?
Yeah. And if you have any other things to add to this conversation, please send us a message. TheInnerGamer.net. Click that contact button. You can write us a little message there. We will totally talk about it and maybe even present it to people on the next podcast, because we would love to have your feedback and share with the world. Head on over to TheInnerGamer.net for our full podcast episode for our weekly game impressions and top headlines of the week.
That's one of me doing an interview. Here's one of all of us. We'll make some cool
things.
Brett's also right here.
Like this video, subscribe, keep up with all the latest video game news and opinions that you care about right here on The Inner Gamer.